Hi, welcome to another edition of the Alan Rosenberg Show. I am going to do something completely different that I have never done before. So what you see here are Queen albums. I have 7 of them plus the 2 greatest hits albums. And I'm going to do a series called Is Queen the Greatest Rock Band of All Time? Because apparently they are. It's an amazing thing. Queen has done something that is astonishing. Freddie Mercury, the lead singer, one of the greatest frontmen of all time, he passed away in 1991. That's 32 years ago. But Queen is bigger than they've ever been. You know, with Adam Lambert and stuff like that. They did the movie Bohemian Rhapsody, which is always playing on TV all the time. And they continued. It would be as if Keith Richards and Ron Wood went out as the Rolling Stones with another singer, and nobody cared. Nobody cares that Freddie Mercury died in 1991. Queen is the biggest band in the world. How is that? Their streaming numbers are so gargantuan. It's off the chart. You know, they're like triple the Beatles and more than triple the Rolling Stones, and the Who's not even in the running, and Led Zeppelin's below, and Pink Floyd's not in the running. How did Queen get so big? The Broadway show, the movie, and I think Queen is the epitome of the change in music with streaming, where streaming, in my opinion, has leveled the playing field. Because when it comes to streaming, it's very much like commercial radio. And when you listen to commercial radio, they only play maybe 3 songs from The Who, and maybe they play the same 5 songs from the Rolling Stones, and they play over and over again maybe those 5 or 8 Queen anthems. And those Queen anthems have gotten bigger than any other band, and you hear them all the time. And if you talk to people, they're like, oh yeah, who's your favorite band? Queen. They're the greatest band of all time. But my feeling is most of those people only know, let's say, those 5 or 8 classic Queen anthems that most people seem to love over and over again, Bohemian Rhapsody, etc. And because they love those songs so much, way more than the top 3 Who songs, and maybe way more than the top 5 Rolling Stone songs, or the top 4 Led Zeppelin songs, Queen has become the biggest band in the world, even though they haven't really existed with Freddie Mercury since 1991. It's really an interesting phenomenon, and other bands have that, I think, as well, like AC/DC, also one of the biggest bands in the world. Most casual people only know relatively a handful of AC/DC songs, but man, those songs are bigger than those other mega bands. Whole au revoir, because all you hear in streaming is those select songs over and over again, and it keeps feeding itself like commercial radio does. And that's changed the whole industry. Now, I was born in '63. When I was in high school, it was really in the late '70s, let's say, and into the early '80s. Queen was a big band. You know, this was a great run. Queen 2, which I don't have yet, A Sheer Heart Attack, Night at the Opera, Day at the Races, News of the World, and Jazz. Fantastic run, no doubt about it. But nobody when in the 70s would have ever said that Queen was the greatest band in rock and roll or in the history of rock and roll. Nobody was even approaching the big 4. Who were the kings of rock and roll? It wasn't Queen, it was the Beatles, the Rolling Stones, the Who, and Led Zeppelin. People loved Queen. They sold a lot of records. They would sell out Madison Square Garden one night. In their peak of popularity, they would play Madison Square Garden 2 shows and sell them out. Nothing to sneeze at. But Jethro Tull also sold out Shea Stadium. These were big, big bands, but they weren't anywhere near the approachable of, the Beatles, Stones, Led Zeppelin, and the Who, and other bands as well. And then, of course, in the early 80s and mid-80s, Queen in the United States, they dropped down to not much, Big Space and Flash and whatever, they just lost their mojo in the United States in a big way. Internationally, huge band, even then playing stadiums. At that point in the United States, So the death of Freddie Mercury, the remarkable marketing of the band, radio playing the same 5 songs over and over again that have just created this drive for those 5 songs, and then streaming playing those few classics. It's an amazing phenomenon. So what I have decided to do is I'm going to keep an open mind, and I've gone out and I've bought all of these Queen albums. All I've ever had by Queen in my whole life was their greatest hits, which I am willing to bet 95% of the big Queen fans out there, supposedly, who say they're the greatest band of all time, they only know their select hits. Because this is what I have on CD, and I like a lot of their songs a lot. I love some of their songs. Some of their songs I despise. But I have a hell of a rough time just getting through a Greatest Hits 1 or a Greatest Hits 2. I just have a lot of trouble getting through 17 Queen songs in a row. Some drive me crazy, and some are really good. But when I look at this, 2 CDs of the very best of Queen, does this compare to 2 CDs of the very best of Led Zeppelin or the very best of The Who? Could you possibly fathom putting the very best of the Rolling Stones on 2 CDs and this would be better? Could you fathom putting the best of the Beatles on 2 CDs and this would be better? Something is very wrong. But I'm going to keep an open mind. So what I'm going to be doing is I'm going to be playing each one of these albums, and I'm going to give them a really good listen over and over again, and then I'm going to do a video. And I'm going to analyze my opinion on these individual albums. I really am going to keep an open mind. Is Queen truly the greatest rock and roll band ever, the greatest rock and roll band in the world? Because all the surveys now, based on streaming and popularity votes in, Queen is the greatest band of all time. Very strange. So check out, I'm going to create a playlist. It's going to be called Is Queen the Greatest Rock and Roll Band of All Time? And then I'll do this video in there, and I will review each one of these albums. And let's see how they compare to the Beatles, and the Rolling Stones, and the Who, and Led Zeppelin, and maybe U2, and maybe Bruce Springsteen, and maybe Bob Dylan, because to me, those are the kings of rock and roll. But let's see how it goes. Thanks for tuning in. Check out these videos when they pop up, and let me know your opinion, because my hunch is that streaming has really changed the music world. Thanks for watching. I'll see you next time on The Alan Rosenberg Show.